If you keep squeezing, you end up crushing it and it will disappear.
Is it time to seriously reform hospitality business rates when I and other independent pub operators are seeing increases from this April? In my case, a 41% increase in rates payable from April this year.
Little intake of breath around the audience there. Well, look, so you own a pub, Andrew. Just tell us a bit more about it.
I have two rurally located pubs that are the hubs of the village. They're part of the community, so they don't just serve food and drink. We welcome lonely people. We look after people, work closely with the churches in our village to form part of the community. And we seem to be taxed out of existence, whether it's NI cost increases of last year or the business rates increases this year. It's just becoming impossible to make a profit.
And you can keep going there, presumably? Or not? Or is that in doubt?
Well, I'm getting towards the end of my working career, and I've been in hospitality for many, many years. My son was going to take over the family business, but, you know, now, am I giving him an opportunity to move forward, or am I handing him poison chalice?
Tom, obviously I'm going to come to you. I mean, you own, is it 6 restaurants?
Five restaurants, 4 of which are pubs. 4 of which are pubs.
Okay, so just from your perspective, is it as difficult for you as Andrew is saying? And if so, why?
It is equally as difficult. You know, I'm in a very fortunate position that I'm sat here as somebody with a secondary form of income from media and television, whatever else. However, my businesses are under exactly the same pressure as Andrew. And Andrew, the way that he talks about it there is I mean, hospitality is much bigger than just the problems of the business. That it's so much more important to the network of society. It knits us all together. It's the fabric. It's connection to people. It runs so much deeper. And as an industry, it employs over 3 million people. Hospitality as a sector is the 3rd biggest in the UK. And on top of that, the network of, I suppose, the veins that it spreads out to into the rest of the country through farming, through fishery, through agriculture, through logistics. There's so many more people that are involved in hospitality. And the prices and the pressures that the businesses sit under. Since 2020, Andrew there talks about business rates. Yours went up over 40%. Mine, on average, across my 4 pubs, have gone up 115%. So
wow.
It is.
And just explain it, because it's so. Just for those of you who aren't aware, so. In the 2025 autumn budget, Rachel Reeves announced that business properties would be revalued from April. I mean, that happens every 3 years or so, but that will lead to a number of businesses paying higher business rates. And that coincides with the COVID-era discounts for small retail, hospitality and leisure, which were cut from 75% to get these people through COVID to 40% in November, and then they will be cut entirely from April. So you've got that double whammy. What the government has done is announced that pubs and live music venues in England will get a 15% discount off those new business rates. Is that not good enough for you?
No, that's a 15% discount off a 115% rise, which is still a monstrous, catastrophic rise. And they talk about it's a very different position from where pre-COVID to now. Since 2020, food inflation is up 40%, and in certain items it's up even more. Beef is up way more than that. Veg oil, cooking oil, like the staples are up nearly 70%. So across board, that's food inflation. National insurance increases have gone up, minimum wage has gone up, energy and utility bills are up 70%.
Well, look, you've got the government here in the form of Lisa. So what do you want to say to her? What do you want her to do?
It's a reduction in VAT. That is the biggest thing that would save hospitality, frontline hospitality. It's a reduction in VAT. It's the only way that as an industry it is going to be able to survive. It sits at the minute at 20%. The rest of Europe, even Ireland that sits there as quite high, is 13.5%. The rest of it, Portugal is 6%, Spain, France 10%, Germany is 7%. These are places and these are countries where hospitality isn't thriving, it's just existing. Because at the minute, what's happening is we are squeezing the life out of hospitality. And once it's gone, it is gone. And if you keep squeezing, you end up crushing it and it will disappear.
Well, look, Lisa, Tom has come prepped with his facts, that's clear, and you're getting a cri de coeur from him, but also from Andrew sitting there, he's nodding away at what Tom has to say. Is that something that you would consider?
No, and look, in fairness to Tom, I mean, he wasn't reading that off a piece of paper, he's living and breathing it, and we were talking about it in the green room earlier because I recognise what you're both saying, and I don't want to pretend. It drives me absolutely up the wall when you see politicians coming out and saying it's all getting better, it's all fine, when the people who are living it know that it's really tough. And you're telling us it's tough, and I've heard it, I get it. And,
but they're also saying part of the reason it's tough is because of your
because of
government's
choices
policies.
we make. But let me try and deal with that, because I mean, the first thing is that you're right to say that there's a revaluation of business rates every few years, and the particular problem this time round is that the funding for COVID relief came to an end. Now, you know, we could have extended that. We would have had to pay for it because there was no money allocated to pay for it beyond those few years that it existed. And so what we did was we found billions of pounds in the budget to put into trying to help people transition off that relief. And when we were told by many people, including Tom, that that wasn't sufficient, the Chancellor has gone back and looked again and found more that we're putting particularly into pubs and live music venues. Now, I'm not saying for a moment, Tom, that you're not right to say that they've gone up and then we've taken some money off that. That is true, but I'm just explaining to you why that's happened. Now, the other thing that has happened during that time is that we've had to invest in order to get the economy growing. And today we had figures out about the economy, which I appreciate nobody is feeling yet in their pockets, but inflation is coming down and is forecast to go down again. Now, this is important. Why? Because measures that we've taken, like the rise in the minimum wage, is deliberately designed to put money into people's pockets so that they can go out and spend it in the local shops and businesses, the pubs and restaurants, on the high street, the things that we all really value.
But right now, hang on, Lisa.
The signs are that that is starting to work.
OK, but right now, you've got Andrew saying, basically I'm going to have to give up, probably. You've got Tom saying we're on our knees, and basically the government's policies are squeezing us out of existence. You know, should you get the economy growing, it's going to take time. What about Tom's request about VAT?
What about VAT now? Like, we had this conversation in the green room. We are listening, and we are not afraid to go away and rethink and try and do things differently. We've already done that with this policy, but we're hearing it again. Yeah, but you see, this is the problem, Esther, because you say U-turn, 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 and you know what I say? I say that people sitting on this panel don't necessarily always know best about what's happening in the country. And if someone tells us there's a problem, I'm proud to be part of a government that will go away and try and fix it.
Certainly no one in Westminster knows better, because I was travelling across the country over the last few days, and the one thing, the consistent thing that I got, other than the fact that Keir Starmer is exceptionally spineless as a leader, was that politicians don't understand our lives, because you have these people insulated from the rest of the country that have spent their entire political careers insulated by this political policy complex. No, let me finish.
What would you do, and how would you pay for it?
Hold on. She's saying that inflation has come down because of the government's decisions. Inflation has not come down because of anything that the government has done. Inflation has come down because global energy prices have come down. Rachel Reeves made the choice, instead of doing something that Angela Rayner was in favour of, which was putting a windfall tax on banks last November when she was considering options. She decided to put up the taxes of small businesses instead of putting a windfall tax on banks. That is a decision made by this government. I'm sorry, you are gaslighting the public into believing that this government has any competence or any understanding with what business people are dealing with. And two election cycles ago, you may not believe this, I actually voted for Labour. And I voted for the Labour Party because at the time I believed that they were the only party speaking to the interests of young people. Because I think in politics today, I feel like young people don't get a fair representation, and I was encouraged by hearing a major political party talking about or understanding the struggles that young people are facing. Now Britain has the highest youth unemployment rate in Europe, 16%. The under 18 minimum wage has gone up by 83% in 7 years. How many of you know anyone whose wages have gone up by 83% in 7 years? And what it means for businesses, particularly in hospitality, is it's too expensive to hire young people. So this Labour government is pricing young people out of their first job. They are choosing not to tax people like bankers, for example, not reforming the carry rates, which Rachel Reeves was considering putting it in line with the top rate of income tax. No. The profits of bankers and traders was more important for her, so she chose to put on the average working people instead.
Okay,
and then this
Esther.
person has the audacity to tell the British public that because the inflation rate is going down...
Person? We've just been talking about civility in politics. Could you show some manners, please?
This member of government has the audacity to tell the British public that it is the government that is making people's lives easier. It's completely ridiculous. And it is an insult to the business owners that have no respite from the constant tax rises and gaslighting by this government. I'm sorry, this is ridiculous.
All right, well, hang on 1 second, because you all want to come back in, and I'm going to let you all. But at least you won't want to be brief, but very briefly, would you just like to answer that?
Yeah, well, it was just absolute nonsense from start to finish. Why would any government come into power and say we don't want to help small businesses? I mean, it's just
then why are you raising
absolutely
the
absurd.
taxes?
Well, sorry, I just listened to a very long and quite rude monologue from you. So I think, I do think there are people who want to know the answer to this question. We've been talking about some of the measures that might help. Of course, I'll take them away and we'll discuss them and we'll see what more that we can do. We want to help to protect our businesses, but what I'm trying to explain is that we've already done quite a lot to try and make this easier. We recognise the problem. We're not going to be able to fix it overnight. But for a long time in this country, what you've had governments that make short-term tactical decisions that have meant that our economy is not growing, that people have lived with a cost of living crisis for over 15 years. And we've got to change the fundamentals of the economy or we're going to end up back here in a few years' time.
Lisa, you said the government there have done quite a lot. It's nowhere near enough. There is a whole industry that is on its knees. And 15% reduction in business rates of an increase is just nowhere near enough to help in the hospitality sector.
I'm not disputing
and
the
that's
problem.
That's just for pubs and music venues. Actually, the difference in costs that come into a pub, that come into a restaurant, what's the difference between the two? There are none. The same. The minimum wage is there. The food cost is there. All of the other issues that drop into hospitality in general are exactly the same. Helping a pub sector slightly. The business rates are calculated slightly differently on a pub. I understand that.
That was why.
However, the industry sector itself is absolutely getting squeezed, and the government must do more.
All right.
Fundamentally, there is the Reform Party that have come out with a policy that is shouting about 10%.
Esther's not here to
No. I mean, just from a slightly more right-sided rhetoric that comes through, there is a 10% reduction in VAT that's coming through there. Andy Burnham, Angela Rayner, both from Labour Party, are both wanting that.
Now, look, you all want to come in, and so do all of you. Jess, I'm going to come to you in a minute. You keep eyeballing me. I'm going to come to you, I promise. And Lizzie. Man here. Yes, you.
Yes, national insurance is a very blunt instrument, as is rates. I'm wondering why the government didn't use VAT. Could it be targeted in a good way to help hospitality businesses?
Okay, and VAT, which of course is what Tom is suggesting as well. Yes, woman there in the glasses.
You say inflation is coming down. It may be coming down, but prices have risen. They're not coming down. They're just not going up as quickly because inflation is low. So we're not seeing a lot of benefit.
Okay, and the man just in front of you wanted to say something.
Yeah, thank you. Also, measures like Rachel Reeves saying, it's OK, we'll let pubs open longer when the World Cup's on, is just not helping. And it actually is quite disingenuous.
Do you work in the hospitality trade as well?
No, I don't work in it, but I support them.
Yes, we all support them. Yes, I hear you. I like the way you put that. Yes, man there with a blue top with a white collar, yes.
I just wanted to say we just had a conversation about social cohesion, but we're pricing out the businesses where those places are to integrate, and we're also pricing young people out of jobs. So where are they to integrate? And I was just wondering what the government's position on that was.
Okay. Well, let me get round the rest of the panel. Jess.
Following on from what the gentleman in the audience just said, we were just talking, the first question was about community, and hospitality businesses are quite often the heart of that community. Esther made the comment that politicians live in a Westminster bubble. We often refer to the Westminster bubble. We don't actually live there. There aren't bunk beds. We do go home to our constituencies and live our lives in a very normal way. And before I went into politics...
listen to your electorates as well.
And before I went into politics, I owned a restaurant, like the gentleman over there, with his pub, and like Tom. And it's a game that my husband and I left because we couldn't keep up. And so I know that it's even worse than when I, sold that business in 2018, because now you've got the additional pressure of the national insurance increases that has disproportionately affected hospitality, because you employ more part-time staff. They moved the threshold down, so it pulled more people into paying those NICS rises. It means it disincentivises them to take risks on young people. That's where most young people cut their teeth in hospitality. I certainly did as a 13-year-old, washing dishes in a tea room.
At 13?
At 13. I mean, back in the day, we're going
Child
back a
labour
while.
laws. Hang on a minute, Jess.
And,
Yeah,
I was paid £3 an hour, and I was glad to do it because I was liking earning a wage, and then I'd spend it on tea cakes after my shift. We do need to do more to protect those hospitality businesses. The Liberal Democrats laid out a policy just before the autumn budget, just before Rachel Reeves came to the House, and put more pressure on those businesses. And we said, if you tax the banks, if you do a windfall tax on the banks, that was going to raise £7 billion in revenue, and that could have been directly spent bringing down VAT for hospitality. Because, like you say, things like NICS rises, business rates, every single business is slightly differently affected in hospitality by those things, but that affects them all. If you bring that down, then those businesses have a little bit more headroom so that they can carry on surviving.
Alicia.
Esther made also a very good point about youth unemployment coming through. Hospitality is one of the biggest employers of youth hospitality, and it's one of the...
And are you finding the fact that the minimum wage has gone up for young people, is that proving a disincentive or not?
Yes, it does, yeah, it absolutely does. But what happens is, the less people that go out, the more you put pressures onto your full-time working staff. So instead of part-time staff coming through, what happens there is your full-time staff members you start looking at the infrastructure, the way that the business works, you start trimming it down, you take your business to the gym, and you look at how it absolutely works. And youth unemployment is massive, but one of those things that they're transferable skills. I'm sure there's many people here, that have worked in hospitality, whether it's washing up, working behind a bar, being at student unions, all of those sort of spaces that people... And it's so important for young adults to have left school, are still at school, go to university, come into hospitality, because at the minute they spend their time with their peer groups, or the only adults they speak to are their parents' friends, or their lecturers. It's their first opportunity to integrate into society and become grown-ups.
Alicia.
So I think the other politicians on the panel know how rare it is that you get a Prime Minister's question, and I had one a few months back, and I raised pubs, and that's because one pub a day has closed under this government. And when we talk about business rate increase...
Four hospitality businesses close every single day.
OK, Alicia's talking about that specifically, but anyway...
But the wider hospitalities are important. One of the pubs I raised, the the Bertie Arms in Uffington, they're looking at a 2,000% business rate increase by 2029. 2,000. And the Olive Branch, when we look at young people, they've scrapped all of their young people because they've said, well, we can't afford to have 4 people who all work 2 days a week when actually we could just have one person who's full-time. And that means when those students go to university and they normally would come back and do their summer jobs, there's no summer job waiting for them. So it is really difficult. And I was really shocked because many of you may have seen this week that Rachel Reeves' entrepreneur advisor, her exact words were, we don't need more restaurants. Those are the words she said. And that's, I think, why we're seeing so many issues, because of the 200,000 jobs that have been lost in this country since the budget, over half are in tourism and hospitality. And that is really concerning because those are young people overwhelmingly. And yes, inflation has come down slightly, but it's still 2.7% higher than it was when the Conservatives left power. So the question is, why, because I assume Lisa is making the case constantly for tourism and hospitality, why is the Chancellor not listening? And we've said we would cut business rates. We've said, look, 100% relief below £100,000, but I'm definitely willing to take away VAT and have a look at that as well. But I am really worried because I represent a really, really rural community, and I mean hundreds of villages, and our pubs are the lifelines for people, particularly people who are widowed, who live at home alone, but but also our young people who need to get out of home and not just be on social media. So this is an issue really close to
the
my
Can I
heart.
just say that is but look, I mean, I've heard some suggestions on the panel, and I appreciate that, because you know, often what happens is you sit on the panel, everyone acknowledges that there's a problem, but then it falls to the government spokesperson to solve it alone. And, you know, I would just gently make the point that the windfall tax that Jess is talking about raises nowhere near the amount of money that this country needs. The national insurance contribution rise for employers raised a huge amount of money, including £29 billion that went into the National Health Service, which I think most people in this country would support. No, but let me just say this as well. Let me just say this as well, that one of the things about, and I recognise what you're saying about young people, it's why we introduced the youth guarantee, which we also paid for by measures in the budget that all of the political parties on this panel opposed. But we, one of the things about the National Insurance contribution rise is that it doesn't apply to under 21s, and that was part of our thinking, is that many young people, including me, our waitress when I was younger, get their first job in hospitality and in those industries. And by taking the decision that we took, we were able to protect the under 21s and make it easier for employers to employ them. So I'm not saying for a moment, I'm not saying that there aren't challenges. We recognise the challenges. We're listening. I won't be put off by people saying that we're U-turning, because if we hear this, we will listen and we'll work with you to try and fix it. But what I am explaining is that there was a logic to these decisions that we took that we think will serve the interests of the country best.